Okay, good vach, a good moedim l'simcha. Uh,
You too.
we're up to Daf Pei Gimel. Pei Gimel. We're still on Pei Beis Amid Beis. We're on Pei Beis Amid Beis. Okay, the Mishnah had said that the Toida is brought from Chulin. That the Toida is brought from Chulin, not from Ma'aser Sheni. Brought from Chulin. Where do you know it from? You know it from Pesach. Where did Pesach you know it from? So Rabbi Eliezer quoted, he said, you learn it out from Pesach Mitzrayim. Just like Pesach Mitzrayim, it was brought from Chulin, because Ma'aser Sheni was not present in what in Mitzrayim. Huadin Pesach L'Doris. Said Rabbi Akiva that you can't learn Efsha Mishi Efsha. You know, how can you learn on Pesach L'Doris and Pesach Mitzrayim? Okay, and then we had a conversation between the two. We ended up with a hekesh between Zeh Kazeh. Now the question is, where does Rabbi Akiva know the din of Pesach and Chulin? In other words, that was a given in the Mishnah. No one argued on that. So if he doesn't agree with the source of Rabbi Eliezer, right? And because ain't done in Mishesha, the source of the din, where does he know it from? So we're up to Pei Beis Amid Beis, and we're 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 14 lines up. Rabbi Akiva Pesach Deina Boilim and Achulim Minale, Nafkle Mihodam Shmuel, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. He learns it out from what Shmuel said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer. Zois HaTorah la'oila ulamincha ulachatas ulaosham ulamiluim ulazevach hashlamim. Okay, now we had this pasuk and we dashed it in Chaimer. We're going to dash in here as well, guys. The answer to the question is going to be in the end of the daf on Pei Gimel Amid Aleph. It's going to be the end of the daf on Pei Gimel Amid Aleph. So we're going to go through a whole brisa. Again, our mission is Loit Rebbe. Our mission is Loit Rebbe, like Rabbi Akiva, where do you know? Where do you know that a Pesach is brought from Chulin? Because he doesn't learn Efsha Mishi Efsha. Where does he know it from? And the answer is going to be at the end of Pei Gimel Amid Aleph. So we're bringing in a pasuk now. We're going to darshan the pasuk piecemeal. We're going to darshan the pasuk piecemeal. And again, all we need is that the Pesach is brought from Chulin, and that's what we're going to find out. But along the way, we're going to find out a bunch of different things, and I'll summarize it in the chart that I just put on the screen. Not on the screen, but I just downloaded. Okay, says the Gemara. What do you learn from the word oil? Right? You're making a hekesh. You're saying they're all in the same ballpark. So what do you learn from oila? Ma oila tuna kli. Just like the oila requires a keli, just like the requires a keli. Afkol toin kli. So to all the other kabbanis, the chatas, the oshan, require a keli. Maihi. What's the keli? Ilema mizrak. If you're going to tell me what, it's a vessel that captures the blood. Gabi zivche shamitziba namiksiv. By zivche shamitziba, it also says vayasem ba'agonos, and they placed it what in vessels. So why do I need to learn from Ayla? We have another source. Ella sakin. When it says kli, it means you need a sakin. You need a knife. The kli that under discussion, guys, the kli that's under discussion is a knife. Okay. Now, where do you see an oila you need a knife for? V'oila gufa minalan. Dichsiv vayishlach Avram es yadoi. Avram sent out his hands by the Akedah. Vayikach es hamacheles, and he took the knife. Lishched es benoi, to go ahead and slaughter his son. For asam oilahu, and there we know that that Yitzchak was an oila. Dichsiv vayaleyu laoila tachas beno, and they brought him in place of his son. Okay, so that's why we learn from the word oil. Again, remember, fellas, we're darshaning the whole pasuk. We want one thing. What do we want? Like Rabbi Akiva, how do you know the Pesach comes from Chulin? Good. Now, mincha. What do you learn from mincha? Ma mincha enu necheles ela zichrei kahuna. Just like mincha is only eaten by the males. Afkol ein echol ela zichrei kahuna. So too all kamanis that could be eaten are only zichrei kahuna. Now, obviously, shlamim not. Obviously, shlamim not, right? Look at the bottom Rashi, guys. The bottom Tosfos, bottom Tosfos. You're going to say to me, you're going to say to me, isn't a shlomim eaten by, right? We say it every single day in Ezim Koimim, right? By everyone, okay? By everyone, yeah? So now, Ulishlamim the Haikroa bekivsi atzeres koi, right? This pasuk when it says shlamim, it's speaking about kivsi atzeres, the kfasim that we're going to bring on Shavuos, the kachei kedoshim ninu. Guys, what's the problem? Look at the pasuk, fellas. Look at the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Zois haTorah la'oilu mincha l'chatzos l'oshim l'neluyim u'lezebach hashlamim." Yes, and you're learning out from the word mincha that it's only eaten by males, but it's not true. A shlamim is eaten by females as well. And the answer is that shlamim of the pasuk is not kachim kalim. That shlamim of the pasuk is the kivtzei atzeres, which are born in Shavuos. Okay, and that is only very good. Back by us, says the Gemara. When you tell Zichrei Kuna, why do I need to learn from Mincha? Ichatas for Asham. If you're going to tell me Chatas for Asham, it says it openly. Top, Mefayrish at the top. What does it say? V'zeh yiyeh l'chol mikotshei hakadoshim min ha'esh l'chol chatasom u'l'chol ashamam v'samach le b'kotshei hakadoshim. That you have to eat it in the Azara. So it's eaten by males. So you see that Asham and Chatas are stated openly. So why do I need the milcha to teach me that eating Zichrei Kahuna? Chatas I don't need it for. Asham I don't need it for. If Zichrei Shalmei Tzibor, maybe Buri the Kro Asli. And if you tell me it's for the Shlamim of the Tzibor, meaning on the Kivsei Atzeres, Asya, we learned that out from the Kodesh HaKadoshim Tochlenu, Kol Zacha Yochel Oso. From the word Yochel Oso, eat it. Limin al Zichrei Shlamei Tzibor, she'ein nechalam ella l'Zichrei Kahuna. Right? That's only by Zichrei Kahuna. Good? So, what's the answer? It says, what Tanayi? Iked the Maisalem Michacha, they're those who learn it out from Mincha. Iked the Maisalem Michacha, they're those who learn it out from a Yochel Oso. In other words, there's two sources for the Zichrei Kahuna, either Mincha, like the first Baisa, or the second Baisa that says Yochel Oso. You know, ultimately, guys, you're learning out for a Shalmei Tzibor. You're learning out for the Kivsei Atzeres. So one learns it out from Mincha. Again, I don't need it for Chatas or Asham. I don't need it for the Oila. Oila is not eaten. So we have three possible kabbanas: the Chatas, the Asham, and the Shlamim. I don't need for the Chatas, the Asham. It says it openly that's Zichrei Kahuna. So I'm learning out from Mincha. What am I learning out? Kivsei Atzeres. For the Gemara, we have a rebuy from a pasuk of Yochel Oso. Says the Gemara, Einachinami, it's Machlokes Tanoim where you learn it from. Our Daf Yomi Beis learned it from the Hekesh to Mincha, and this the second Baisa learned it from Yochel Oso. That's the answer to that question. Again, just to reiterate for the umpteenth time, what are we trying to do? We're trying to figure out, like Rabbi Akiva, how do you know the Pesach comes from Chulin money and Amais Sheni? That's what and so far we haven't gotten there. Chatas, what do you learn from the word chatas? Machatas mikacha bibelua, afkol mikacha bibelua. Just like a chatas is magdish by absorption. Guys, if you have a chatas and a shlamim, a chatas is eaten for a day and a night, and a shlamim is eaten for 2 days and a night. And the chatas, a hot chatas touches a shlamim. The shlamim is going to get the halach of the chatas. Belua, it gets absorbed, right? It gets absorbed. Machatas mekacha bebelua, afkol mekacha bebelua. Asham, why do you learn from the word asham? Ma'asham ain't shvir v'shilya kaddish by. No fetus or the amniotic sac is kaddish. Afkol ain't shvir kaddish. Now, what are you going to tell me, fellas? An asham is only a male. An asham is only a male, so of course it's not possible to have what? A baby inside me. Ksava, two things we can ascertain from this brisa. One, Vlodes Kodshim Bahavayasan Hein Kedoshim. There's a machlokes, fellas. At which point in time does the animal get kedusha? When it's in its mother's womb, or b'shas havaya, or b'shas it's leda. So this brisa is holding b'shas leda at the time of leda. And in addition, v'dan an efshar mishiyeh efshar. We're going to learn out where it's possible, like by Osham and Chatas, which are females. We're going to learn it out from Osham, which is not possible. So just like over there, the Shvir and the Shilya are not Kodesh because they're not born yet. Who adin, a baby inside the shlomim where it's possible, inside the chatas where it's possible, will learn out from osham where it's not possible. That what? That it's not kodesh. Guys, so far so good. And what are we trying to figure out? How do you know, like Rabbi Akiva, that the Pesach is brought from Chulin? Again, in learning, this is a classic Gemara. You very much can get, off the rails. Miluyim, the pasuk says Miluyim. What do you learn from the Miluyim? Ma Miluyim, my sayim, the extra, the nicer, Besreif was burnt. Vein Balichayim, my sayim, any extra carbon was, why did they separated two kabbanas, one for insurance was Besreifa. Avkol Masra saying Besreifa, when it's a shachtin, it's Besreifa. Vein Balichayim, my sayim Besreifa. Shlomim, what do you learn from Shlomim? Ma Shlomim mifaglin, they create pigel, umispaglin, and they become pigel. In other words, let's say you're bringing a toida, you're bringing the lachme toida. So mifagel, they can create it in a pigel in the lachme toida, umispaglim, and they themselves, guys. The pasuk is the shlomim is by pigel. The pasuk of shlomim is by pigel. I've called mifaglim mispaglin, or any one of these korbanos. Bimasnita tana in a brayso or tosefta, tan mishmei de rekiva. So it's ha Torah mincha. My mincha is mekadeshes bebalua. I've called Mekadesh Bebelua. As opposed to the first brisa, it said the chatas is Mekadesh Bebelua by going ahead and transmitting its substance into the other one, the halacha. So too mincha, right? So you have two sources for belua, one mincha, one chatas. The Gemara goes ahead and tells us for itzrich. You need to tell me both. You need to tell me belua by chatas, and you need to tell me belua what by mincha. Right? It's the mincha b'chatas, it's the mincha b'mincha. Dikas rachmana b'mincha mishum derachicha bala. Since a mincha is rachik, it's soft, so it's shaykh to go ahead, right, and absorb. Aval chatas emaloi, chatas which is hard not, because rachmana chatas mishum debasar agav deshamein kadir. Since it's what it is fat, kadir. Fat has the ability to penetrate, guys. It penetrates. Aval mincha, which is not shamein. It's tzricha. Okay, good. So far, get ready, guys. Here it comes. Second brisa. Chatas. Machatas ein boil menachulin. Right. That's what you need it for this one line. Just like a chatas comes from chulin. Again, this is the second brisa. The first brisa learned chatas belua. Right. This brisa is learning mincha belua. This is right. First brisa learned chatas belua. This brisa says mincha belua. So I don't need chatas. What did I learn from chatas? I learned from chatas what we wanted. What we started a search. Like Rabbi Akiva, you learn from chatas that it comes from chatas is a chiyuv to bring. It comes from chulin. Hu adin pesach, which is a chiyuv to bring, comes from chulin. Very good. Guys, good. Okay. It's beyond during the day. Ubiyodei Yemanis is the right hand. Avkolei nebel menachulin ubiyom ubiyodei Yemanis. Good. The chatas guf minolim that it comes from chulin. Amavkista damakra v'hikir aron is para chatas ashalo pasas achremos. He's going to bring his para on Yom Kippur. Ashalo. What does lo mean? Lo mishalo v'lo mishal ma'isa. Okay. So we, for all intents and purposes, we finished that job. The brisa continues and explains that you just said by chatas it comes during the day and also with the right hand. The Gemara says, why don't you need chatas to teach me that? Biyom, you can all tell me. Biyom savoso nafka. Where do you know the korban has to be during the day? It says biyom savoso. It says Gemara kidin aspab. Enochinami. When it said yom, you just learned it agav, but it's not the main source. Biyodei Eimanis with the Rabbi Baruch Chana nafka. That I don't need the pasuk of chatas to teach me that. I learned from Rabbi Baruch Chana. Rabbi Baruch Chana, we had this before. Reish Lakish. Kol makom shenemar etzbo kahuna. Anytime it says etzbo kahuna, eina ela yamin. Says Gemara kidei naspa. Enachinami. So when we said chatas taught me 3 din, one chulin, one day, one right hand, we just threw in the day and the right hand. But enachinami, there's another source for that. However, there's no other source for what for chatas and chulin, and it says ashaloi by the power of Aaron, and therefore I know chatas like Rabbi Akiva comes from chulin. V'hu then I know what Pesach comes from chulin. Asham ma asham atzmoisav mutarim, just like the asham, the atzmois, they're mutter, the ones that don't have marrow. You can make a knife, a blade of a knife, a handle of a knife from a bone. Right? You can use the bones to carve out things. Avkol atzmoisav mutarim. Good. So also mutar. Okay, so what do we got? Okay, here we have a chart. What are we learning in the chart? Oila mincha chatas asham miluyim shlamim. So what does it say? Shmuel says in the Rebbe Eliezer, an oila that you need a kli, you need a knife. I assume, guys, you're seeing this? No? One
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mincha, mincha is zichrei kahuna. Chatas mekadeshes bevelua. Asham, that the babies are not kaddish. The miluyim, you don't burn the balchai. And shlomim, you learn out in mefaglin mispaglin. Rabbi Akiva, the second brisa. Oila, you need a knife, he agrees. Mincha, you mekadesh bevelua. Again, he learns the belua from mincha, not from chatas. Why does he learn from chatas? Three dinim, chulin, yoim, and yad yamanis. He learns that chulim, yoim, and yad yamanis. And what does he learn from asham? That the atzamis are mutarim. That the atzamis are mutarim. Okay, we're good? So where's everybody? I don't know. I touched something, guys, here. I don't know what I'm doing. You good? We saw that everything was good, right? And so now we know, so now we have machloikis. Now, what pasuk did Rabbi Eliezer learn it from, guys? What pasuk did Rabbi Eliezer learn it from? Go back to Pei Beis Amid Aleph. Says the Mishnah, "Minayin lo'ima harei alai toidesh layavi elamin achulin tamid leimar v'zavach pesach l'shem lekechet soinu bakar." Okay, so this, what does Rabbi Akiva do with this pasuk of v'zavach pesach l'shem lekechet? Because he's learning it out from Chatas. Says Gemara, Rabbi Akiva, hi, back by us. Hi, v'zavach pesach amid beis my ovid lei. What does he need it for? Mi boyle l'chad Rav Nachman. He needs it for Rav Nachman's din. Dom Rav Nachman is of the opinion, Omar Rabba Bar Avua, Milayin L'Moiser Pesach Shekorev Shlamim. How do you know if you go ahead, you separate two, you have leftover Pesach, you separated two, or various situations that a Pesach was left over. How do you know you mark Shlamim? Shenemar V'zabach the Pesach L'Shem L'Kecha, Sonu Bakar. 1 second, guys. Below ain't Pesach Ba'elim and Akfasim when it only comes from small livestock. It doesn't come from Bakar. Ella, Ma'isra Pesach Yehiladova Haba Minat Soin Uminat Bakar. Let the extra Pesach be from an animal that can be bought as Soin and Bakar. And what is that? That's a Shlamim. Right, Gemara. Okay, so you learn that from Zavach the Pesach. I have another source that a Pesach the Shlamim. But Mihacha Nafka Midiavu the Shmuel Nafka. I learned it out from the father of Shmuel. Dechsiv in Minhat Soin Karbano LeZevach Shlamim. V'Mavu the Shmuel Dava Haba Minat Soin Yehei LeZevach Shlamim. Anything that comes from tzoin, which is what? Anything, which is it's the Korban Pesach, guys. The Korban Pesach has to come from tzoin. It's bought as a shlomim. So we have two sources. We have this avachta, and we have iminat tzoin. But Tanya, keves. Now the pasuk says, fellas, the following. It says, look, in the parsha of shlomim, it says first, guys, look at me. It says the iminat tzoin, then it says keves, and then it says eis. Why do you have to say keves? Once you said sign and you said ace, I know by default that it's got to be a sheep. It can't be anything else. The only thing that's sign is goats and sheep. So once you bring the pasuk mina ace, goats, you bring mina sign. So why do you have to tell me keves? So the word keves is extra, and therefore we're going to darshan. We're going to darshan that pasuk. We're going to darshan that pasuk. Mina keves. Mina keves. The Rabbi says a pesach la aliyah. That the aliyah, the tail, the part, the backbone, and the part of the aliyah is part of the Korban Pesach. Keshu oime im keves, when it says the word im, that's also extra. Levi Pesach she'over shenasai, that a Pesach that is over a year old. V'shlam haba machmas Pesach, l'chol mitzvah shlamim, that once it passes a year, it becomes a shlamim. And any shlamim that comes as a result of the Pesach has all the dinim of a shlamim. For example, sheyitnu smicha, you have to do smicha as opposed to Pesach, not unisachim as opposed to Pesach, utenufas chas v'shoik as opposed to Pesach. However, therefore, once this Pesach comes to shlamim, it goes into the category of shlamim for all those halachas. Says the Gemara, kishu oimavim eis. hifsika inyan limit al eis she'ena tu'una aliyah. The eis does not need an aliyah, right? That an eis, even though the sheep needs what? The sheep needs the aliyah that is part of the imurim. The aliyah of the eis is not part of the imurim, right? So in other words, hifsik inya means you separated the shlomim of the izim from tsoin, right? And that teases that the eis does not need what? Okay, so Freddy were a kasha, you got three psukim. Gavis of achta, you have imin at tsoin, and now you have the keves, that pasuk. So it's teaching me three things. They're all the same thing. That what? That a leftover carbon pesach is a shlomim. Says the Gemara, you need three things. Tilsa kroy ksiv, chad le'over, b'semanoi v'over shenasai. Want to tell me that you didn't bring it, and it's over the shana. And in other words, you missed the time, and you missed the age. And the Gemara is going through each one. V'chad la'over zmanoi v'loi over shenasai. You over this man, you missed the boat, but it's available for Pesach Sheni because it's still a year old. V'chad loy over zman v'loi over shenasai. You bought it early, guys. V'chad loy over zmanoi. You mean it's still not the time for the shechita of the Pesach. V'loi over shenasai, and it's the animal still within the year of its life, guys. So in other words, this is you bought it early. That's the only hechatim, so that you didn't miss the time. Okay. B'tzricha. Di yashmeinon. If you're going to tell me of zamanai v'avashinasai, you missed both. Mishum de itchi le'legamri. That's why it becomes what? A shlamim. Aval of zamanai v'le'avashinasai. You missed yudalit, but it's still within a year. I would say the chazi le'pesach sheni. You could possibly use it for pesach sheni. Yudalit iyar. Ein maloi. I would say that what? No. I would say that maybe it doesn't become a shlamim. Kemash malon, that it is a shlamim. V'yashminan of zamanai v'le'avashinasai. Right, and if you tell me that you missed the boat, but it's still within a year, let's say you bought it early, I'd say it's puzzle. So tzricha to tell me in all scenarios that it's kasha. And we will stop over here.